Midnight Live with Cat Carter. Get ready, set, let's go. Come on. It's Friday night. It's Friday night live. It's Friday night. It's Friday night with Cat Carter. It's Friday night. Hey. It's Friday night. It's Friday night. Yeah. It's Friday night with Cat Carter. It's Friday night. It's Friday night live. It's Friday night. It's Friday night with Cat Carter.
Peter Okonkwo is a Nigerian writer, fatalist, publisher, editor, farmer, literary critic, spiritual philosopher, soon-to-be novelist of Eaton's Destiny, and a certified orator for the Friendship Leadership Institute of Nigeria. Please welcome to Friday Night Live, my new friend, Peter Okonkwo.
Ooh.
Did I say it right?
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I appreciate it. It's lovely to be here.
I'm just so excited. We are in Are we in Nigeria right now talking to you?
Yeah, Nigeria. Interesting.
Oh my gosh.
Long way down to Africa.
Well, we are so honored to have you on the show, Peter. I don't get a lot of authors, so when I do, I get very excited. So let's dive right into it. I know we've got some really great pieces that you've done that we want to talk about, and we want to learn a little bit more about you. Yeah. So first question, what is the vision or / mission statement of P English Literature? Or tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, thank you for asking. Yes. P English Literature, in short, PEL, it's an organization that I set up 4 years ago, following on my first published book, that was Ecstasy of the Dead. When I first had my book published 2020, there aren't much avenues for marketing indie authors because I was searching nook and cranny of the internet space, trying to look for platform that promote self-published books. And when I saw to some people, they were like, oh, self-published, we don't do self-published writing. So I was like, okay, then why not just start up something to promote indie books? Because I come to think of it, there are quite a lot of self-published books that are of the same quality as some traditionally published books.
Exactly.
Most of the guys actually, it's actually because of my frustration trying to get my works out there. But the stigma that, oh yeah, it's self-published, we're not doing it. We don't do self-published. We only do the traditional guys. So I was like, okay, let me just create a platform that promotes self-published books, that promotes self-published writing. And that's how P English Literature came to be. First of all, I started by reviewing books, and later on, I diversified interviewing authors of self-published books. And, hilariously, starting with a primary goal focusing on self-published books, I've got today so many famous traditionally published authors even coming and appearing on the show. So
awesome.
You can imagine. So when they reach out to me, I'm like, okay, fine. I know we do self-publish, but then I'm not going to push you away. You can come. I'm open to everything literature. So this is how P English Literature came to be, because first of all, I was looking for avenues to promote self-published books and also to promote myself as well. And there aren't much avenue. And I just thought I can create something like this to promote self-published book. And hilariously, for the period of 4 years, we've interviewed 500 authors so far.
Wow.
From different countries, from the US, from the UK, from Australia, Canada, some part of Europe and Asia. So it's been exciting, and I've been enjoying the journey thus far.
I think that is so awesome for you to figure out a way where other people, because we all have something to say, we all have a voice, we all have
Yeah.
creativity, to find an avenue for people to be able to have their voice be heard through their art. I think that is beautiful. Congratulations on that. You said you got like
Yeah.
you had over like 500 authors from all, oh
Absolutely.
my goodness. That is wonderful.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a lot of work actually involved in conducting these interviews, in reaching out to authors and having them on the show, in doing recording, editing it, publishing it, sharing it afterward. So it's a lot of work. And I've come to think of it that, so far that I've done this, I've read an amazing bunch of indie books. I'm like, wow, these guys are so talented. These guys are so great. These books, it's worth winning awards and recognition.
Right, right.
So you can see, I don't like it when, one of the issues with self-published books is the fact that most people spend years pitching out their books to the traditional guys and they never get response. Just even get response, get rejected. Yeah, so it's now extending to even the marketing aspect, and it's now getting very difficult to find an avenue to promote books. And I'll come to think of it that, you know, the good books and does not only stop in the traditional world. We have
Mm-hmm.
so many interesting, deep, thought-provoking, beautiful writing by some indie authors. And I just come to think of it that, okay, let me just do something like this. Let me create this avenue while promoting the authors. And yeah, so far, starting 2020, we've had over 500 authors. It's
Wow.
expanding and growing. It's been 4 years coming, and I enjoy the ride so far. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, that is wonderful. I really commend you on that. That is really wonderful.
thank
All right.
you.
So what or who inspired you to be a poet or a writer? What happened? Like, did you know this when you were young? Was it your English teacher? Like, tell us. We want to know.
Uh, yeah, well, I think, as much as I can remember, my first time with poetry, I think it was inspired by some life experiences that I had many years ago. So I think the first time, more like I was keeping a journal. I think it first started by me keeping a journal, or I don't even have an idea of what I was doing. I just realized that whenever I had an experience, sometimes mostly bad experiences,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll just go to the confine of my room, pick up a pen and a paper, and start writing, like pouring out my heartache in those in form of
Wow.
writing. So then I had no idea it's even called poetry because I wasn't trained in literature. Fine, I read a few literature while in secondary school, but I had no idea what I was doing back then. I was just I only knew I'm writing, but I had
Yeah.
no idea what to classify. So it happens when I reached out to one of my friends back then who was a known writer in my city. We attended the same school together. And I sent her my piece of writing. I was like, please, what is it I'm doing? Can you help me look at it? Is it an article or what was it? And she said, well, it can be called a poem. I was like, oh, really? So I'm writing poem. So basically, I started without having any knowledge of what I was doing. I was
Mm-hmm.
just trying to put it together, write things based on what I've seen. And over again, that's how I started. I was like, okay, so what I write is called poetry. To tell you how uninformed, how clueless I was coming into this literature field. So all over and over again, I keep realizing that okay, this is poetry. So what do I need to do to improve my craft? What do I need to do to increase my quality? So I started reading more books, expanding my horizon, watching a lot of YouTube videos, just to expand this newfound talent that I've discovered. So this is how the whole writing began. I never planned to become a writer. It just all of a sudden started. And as much as the word keep coming to my ear, I keep writing them down. And on and on, when I share on social media, people were like, wow, this is very deep. You should write a book. So that was how my first book came to be. So I think my writing journey started 2019. When my first work was published 2020, I had to combine everything I've written thus far and make them in form of book. And the reception was quite amazing. I never knew actually that this is an amazing talent I've just discovered. So that was how I started with writing. I had no idea, first of all, what it's even called. Well, I know there's poetry, but I had no idea what I was doing, if this is actually poetry or
Right.
something else. Yeah.
Right.
So
You
that's how I
know,
started.
that's wonderful. What I took for that, and I think that's why your work is so powerful, because it was almost like that was your release or your safe place whenever you were going through something hard
Absolutely.
or something, something difficult, and you wrote it on paper. That was your, how people have their comfort or their and you were just writing your feelings on paper, but because
Whenever I,
it was really what you were going through or whatever was going on at the moment, people that read that, because of your transparency in that, that's why they're like, oh my gosh, this is deep. Oh my goodness. And the tripped out part about it is, maybe when they read that, they see some of the stuff that maybe they've gone through, or how they,
yeah.
and they see it by your words. That is deep, Peter.
Yeah, as much
Wow.
as I can remember, back then in 2020, when I first had my first book published, and I think in 2021 I published my second book, and then I was quite very getting recognition on Facebook. And when I share, there's some people, when people read the book, people are like, "Wow, that's so deep." I mean, it happens that one artist called me one day on a voice call and asked, "Please, how old are you?" And I told him, I think then I was 21 years or 22. She
Hmm.
was like, "Really? You're so young and you write like an elder, full of wisdom." I
Wow.
was blown away. I was like, "Okay, thank you." Because this what, I love writing about the difficult things of life. I
Hmm.
love writing about the hard issues of life. And if I don't feel emotional, I don't really write. I think most of my writing are written in place of emotion. Whenever I feel like happy or thrilled, I don't really have poem coming to me. But when there's emotion, deep, typical emotion, that's where
Yeah.
those words comes to my head, and I keep gushing them down. And I think that's one of the reasons why I've been termed being heavy with poetry writer. Yeah,
So in Nigeria, do they do like spoken word? Have you heard of like, okay, okay, this is my question.
yeah.
Do you think there is a difference between spoken word and poetry?
Well, I think there's a great difference between the two, because someone like me, I am not so good in spoken word poetry. What I can do is to pick up my book and go the old man's way. I love to call it the old man's way, by
Hmm.
reading from my book what I've written. Yeah, so I think, I've come across so many spoken word artists on Instagram, and their delivery is so amazing. They're exceptional, their voicing, their
Yeah.
talent, it's so beautiful. And I come to think of it that, okay, I think there's a difference. There's a very huge difference, because someone like me, I don't know how to, even if I should practice, and sometimes I try practicing if I can do spoken word, but it doesn't work for me. All I can do is to put on my writing, put it inside book format, and have you read it out to yourself, digest the word, interpret it in your own way. So I feel there's a very great difference between spoken word, and I think spoken word is more like an art on its own. It's more like, it's part of creativity, it's part of poetry, fine, but then
Hmm.
it's an act on its own. And I think I might want to classify it as the oral section of poetry, the vocal section of poetry.
Yeah, that's what I was
Why
thinking too.
this,
Hmm.
why being a poet can be considered the written section of poetry. So there's a very great difference between the two, written
Hmm.
word and the spoken word. And I think that's why most people call it spoken word poetry, which is a bit quite different from the written word poetry. Yeah, that's just my take on it, actually.
I would think the same thing though. I was thinking the same thing. Spoken word is more like the auditory part, and then the other poetry is like you're actually reading the words, but the words are coming off the page, as opposed to like
Hmm.
just sitting and listening. Yeah, I get it. Yeah,
Yeah,
I was thinking the same
yeah,
thing. So how would you describe the poetry pieces that you particularly create? How would you describe them? Like if
yeah.
you could think of one word, like
Yeah,
what would that word be?
yeah. Looking at the titles that I've published so far, and I think most of them have a common theme in it. From Ecstasy of the Dead to Fate to the Dungeon of Doom to the Escape book series, A Cry for Mercy, All the Demon Slave, and I Saw the Light. I come to think of it that, first of all, I love writing on the art issue of life, but then I love philosophical writing in my work. So I think there's a blend of philosophy in my writing,
Mm-hmm.
which is very evident in most of my poetry. There's a blend of spirituality in my writing, which I'm a very huge fan of spirituality because I think that spirituality it's something that pertains to everyone, irrespective of your religion, be it Christian, Muslim, whatever, Hindu, even if you're an atheist, yeah. I think spirituality pertains to all and differs with religion. It's not a respecter of one's religion, yeah. So I think these are the two basic themes that I can think of, like a general theme of my writing. Now I can now classify it if I'm to pick one title over another. But the general thing or the general way that I can describe my writing as the fact that one, they are philosophical in writing, and it's in the sense that they give wisdom. They're the one that you read and you think and ponder and reflect long after you've read it. And also, it has a very huge blend of spirituality in it. I think these are the two basic, themes that I love. Then, depending on each book and the other, I have in faith, I explore themes like faith, of course, itself, which is a big Stoics. I talk
Mm-hmm.
about the Stoics. I talk about the Epicurean philosophy. I talk about the epistemology philosophy. I talk about quite a lot of things, actually. And in there are also other stories. Then moving to Usfor's case with impediment, I talk about obstacle, the relationship between human faith and obstacle, because I think that, obstacle is something that pertains to everyone in life, yeah.
Yes.
So things like that, philosophy, spiritual. So I love to carry these two basic themes with weight of emotion, with weight of question. Oh wow. I love asking questions in my poetry. And I think this is one of the many things that most people have said of my writing. Oh wow, I love your questions. How come you don't provide answers after this question? Oh no. I don't like giving answer. I just like to give questions and leave my readers to provide answers to
Answers.
themselves.
Yeah, that's
Because
good.
I'm a very curious being. I love, and I think curiosity is part of existence, part of life. Because if you ask questions about certain things, why is this so? Especially in my two major work, Fate in the Dungeon of Doom and Whose Fault, Kismet or Impediment. That alone is a book full of questions because the title alone carries questions in it. Whose fault? Who is at fault? Is it
Mm-hmm.
Kismet or impediment? And I have a question mark in front. So I have so many trunkload of questions that I love to ask. But then those questions have a blend of philosophy, have a blend of thought-provoking words, and I also have a blend of spirituality in it. So these are amazing ways, which I'm still looking forward to exploring because I have many more books in my head. I would love to explore more on the themes of delay and obstacles, delay and destiny. I also love to explore more on the theme of hope and so many others screaming in my head.
Oh
Write me,
wow.
write me, write me, write me, Peter. But I'm like, okay, give me some why, give me some why. I need to rest a bit. I need to rest and find some time to do this. Yeah.
Okay. Well, so you talked a little bit about let me pull it up. You just talked about this one, whose fault? And you were saying you can see the question mark on there. Let's can you okay, so if we look in that book, is it like um different pieces of poetry in the book that talk about different things, or how is it tell us a little bit about this book. Tell us more in detail about this book. And if you can give
Yeah.
us like maybe a little insert, tell us a little
No
insert
problem.
something. Okay. All right. Okay. All you.
Yeah. Yeah. Most of the ways in my writing have been described as a factor. From reviewers, you can get to know, and that's one of the reasons why I think reviews are very important. And I enjoy hearing reviews, even from people who agree with what I've written and who do
Mhm.
not agree with what I've written. So I love to keep my team consistent in poetry. I mean, if I'm writing a book, take for instance, Whose Fault, Kismet or Impediment, which is typically about relationship between human fate and obstacles. So it's made up of two sections. The first section, I think, has 15 poems, and the 15 poem is all on the theme of obstacle, 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 but different title, different angles, different speech, different narrator, different storytelling, but all still dig back to the theme of obstacle. And that's what someone left a review of my book in time as well. Like, wow, I love how Okonkwo was able to keep to a particular theme and be consistent in the team as you read along and along and along. It got you to be totally immersed in this topic of discussion. It got you to totally immersed in the subject line of obstacles. So, yeah, in those sport kismet and impediment, it's made up of two sections. Typically, the book is all about obstacle. I mean, these are difficult queries to demystify the realness, the relationship between human fate and its obstacles. So it has two sections. The first section, which is a poems of obstacle, encompassing different poems, all exploring the themes of obstacle, hardship, delay in life, in line of destiny, etc. And then in second part of the book, I have a bit of it touching into spirituality, but also carrying a slight weight of the theme of obstacle in it. So this I love writing. When I'm writing a particular topic, I love to keep to my theme and consistent in my writing, in the sense that 25 poems can still dig back to talking about obstacle and delay, obstacle and its relationship. So you keep reading, and that's why you have to, one poem will get you engulfed, another one will get you captivated, another one will get you breathtaking. Oh my God, that was so deep.
Right. Yeah, you have to just sit and just bask and just meditate on it for a little bit. Yeah,
the digestion process.
Yes. Okay. All right. So we're gonna take a quick break and listen to one of our musical guests.
Interesting.
All right, so we are back with Peter Okonkwo, and we've been looking at some of his poetry. We just looked at one in particular. What was the name of the one we just looked at? I don't want to get it wrong.
Whose fault? Kismet
Who's-
impediment.
Yes,
Yes.
there it is. Yeah. And so now we're going to keep going. He has some more projects he's going to share with us. And what I wanted to ask you, Peter, is why do you feel poetry is important, like for our community? Why do you think that's important?
Yeah, I think there should be a mean of expression. I think there should be a mean whereby human being gets to express what they feel, express how they feel at a particular time, and I think this is one of the reasons why poetry is very important in our community. And aside that, being a poet and also being a writer, I think we human beings, we poet, we writer generally have a role to play in our community. I mean, that's why we have piece of poetry on racism. That's how we have piece of poetry on human rights. That's how we have piece of poetry on governmental issue in terms of security or certain things in the community that we need to voice out for the people to hear. And also we have a role to play in the society as a writer, and that's one of the reasons why I think poetry is very important. I mean, people, particularly me, taking for instance someone like me, they love writing about the hard issues of life. Recently, I have one of my friends that I love wholeheartedly passed away by
I'm
committing
sorry.
suicide. Yeah, she was diagnosed with cancer, which was quite very. I understand how deadly that is, but the
Yeah,
fact that she went ahead and took her own life by hanging herself alone, it's very very sad, and very very sad. So I feel like that alongside with other people, because people actually passing through a lot. I mean, when I wrote a cry for mercy, it's a very typical time, and I love it when I hear people say, wow, Peter, your book speaks to my life in volume. It reminds me of some things I've experienced in the past, and I'm like, oh wow, I'm so happy. It gives me a lot of joy really as an author to
yeah.
hear people say, wow, I love what you've written. It resonated so well with me. So I feel like, while we have issues about human rights, about so many things going on in the world today, it's also good to talk about emotional issue, to preach the word of hope. Because I think most of my writing are being so typical ethics are so hard and thought provoking. It is still date back to the topic of hope, still date back to the topic of avoiding suicide, still date back to the realization that life will be good despite whatsoever you're currently passing through. It's still date back to the fact of preaching the goodness of tomorrow despite the hardness of today. More like I said, obstacle. There's some
Hmm.
people that experience obstacle in life and they just feel like, oh, I'm tired. I just need to end it. And having been through obstacle myself and having had some suicide thought in time past, I can relate to the fact that how important we need to spread more works on this. I mean, when you see racism works or other books and other titles so very important, it's also important to preach the message of hope. It's also important to let people know that, okay, this obstacle you're going through might even have a reason in your life, or this obstacle you're going through might even be a part of your destiny you're unaware of.
That
This
part. Yeah.
obstacle you're going through might have so many things you have. So all of this is what I seek to communicate. It's what I seek to preach. The goodness of tomorrow, the sources of tomorrow, because people are really hopeless. There's this marks of laughter that we get to cover ourselves with, and social media is not doing a good job with it. You see people come online or come up and smile and laugh, but in them they have this typical thing they're battling with. In them they have this very striking situation. They're praying hard and say, oh God, I just wish you take this off from me. I just wish you answer this. I just wish you take me to this next phase of life. So
Hmm.
many things actually, and that's why I love writing about the hard issues of life. And as such, I think poetry is very important because you never know how comforting your work can speak to people. You never know how crucial your work can communicate value and even save a life. It can save a life. So all of this reason and all of these things is what I think and believe they are. poetry is very important because if there are no works like this, these things will just going on escalating, getting terribly and getting worse and worse. But in the presence of words that are soothing, the presence of words that is able to express your frustration and as
Mm-hmm.
much as your misery and also providing solution to it,
Mm,
it kind of give us the ease of a good tomorrow, kind of give us the ease to persevere knowing that it would not always be this way. Yeah,
right.
so this is one of the reasons why I think poetry is very important and to be more preached in our society today. Yeah.
That was good. That was good. Um, would you describe your poetry as a gift or a talent, and why?
This question of gift and talent, I was invited for a speaking engagement in time past, I think last month, to talk about which is more important, is a talent or or I think it's skill or talent, which is much important. And I was like, okay, to talk about this topic of gift and talent, I think I would love to answer this on my own perception, and it may not tally with other people, or some
Mm-hmm.
other people can find it a bit controversial. But then, if I should answer this, I think my work, I would say it's a gift actually. Why do I say it's a gift? Number one, I wasn't trained in literature. Because if I want to go, okay, this way, skill mostly is what you are being taught. I
Right.
mean, what you learned in, say, in college, in university, in classrooms, etc. So that's what I think of skill to be. But talent is something that is innate, it's something that is within you, it's something that you are just so gifted in. And there's some words that you are so gifted in, there's some things that you can write that someone who studied philosophy might have a hard time writing. There's something, and this does not relate to either you're a PhD holder or you have a master's degree. You can be as young as 14 and be so gifted with words that an old man will read it and say, wow, how do you come up with this concept? I'm not quite sure if you've seen some people like that. You can be even, 11 or 12 years old and you put in all works that are so deep, so heavy, and people be like, "Oh wow, you speak like someone who's like 101 years old, who have seen quite a lot of life experiences. How do you come up with this?" So this is the difference between gift, because to someone who is very young, who has had university experience or an educational experience in terms of literature, coming together to write on a particular theme, in a particular subject that people goes to school to acquire knowledge on. I think to me that it is an innate ability. I think to me that it is talent. Yeah. So what I would love to describe, because I've touched about some topics myself that sometimes when I go over the book and read, I'm like, do you really wrote that? Why did you wrote that? Really? That's quite unbelievable. So this is one of the reasons why I so much believe in. I'm a huge fan of talent, yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
that's why I think we should give more space to young people who are quite talented, who have something to offer the world. Yeah. So if I should describe my writing, I think it's a trunk load of talent. It's a trunk load of talent, really.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. How you broke that down. Okay. Um, who are some of your poets and writers that you admire, like when you were growing up or now?
Well, when I was growing up, I do not really explore more of poetry. I remember in high school we do read Wale Soyinka's poetry, and though I wasn't so intrigued because of the humongous word usage, the
Mm-hmm.
vocabulary being too extensive, and so some other. But having had P English Literature Software and having been reading quite a lot of other books, I've admired works of people like Nicole Gillespie is such an amazing writer in Kansas City, United States. I admire works by Eric Bruce Smith too. I love his two books that I've read so far. And I've admired quite a few other authors too. Tolu Akiyemi, who's a Nigerian author residing in the UK, and quite a few other poets too that I've loved so far. Yeah, but I haven't really say I particularly love this particular one, but just about these few contemporary writers.
Yeah.
It's new upcoming writers, little authors that have been able to read their work so far, and I so much admire their poetry. So just a few, three people that I think I've been able to resonate with so far and admire their work so much.
Okay. Let's talk about another one of your pieces. Let's talk about the one that you kind of talked about a little bit earlier. A cry, what is it? A cry for? Let me pull it
Cry
up.
for mercy.
Yeah, cry for
That,
mercy. Let's talk about that. Tell us a little bit about that. How you came up with that title. What was going on? Tell us what's in there. Tell us all about it.
yeah, A Cry for Mercy is the first book in the series of the Escape from the Unseen Dungeon book series. So this is the first book in the series, and I have other books in the series. I have the second one here, Out the Demon Slave, which is the volume two, still Escape from the Unseen Dungeon, and the third one, which was published this year, I think around January, was I Saw the Light. Yeah, this is the third one. So in A Cry for Mercy, when I was writing A Cry for Mercy, I actually cried, actually, because I remember I was on my bed while I was writing the titular poem itself. So A Cry for Mercy, it's a spiritual book of poetry that explore different titles, explore different themes. First of all, in the theme of spirituality, but then I love to consider the book typically to be a book of plea and lamentation. Plea in terms of so many cries, so many prayers, so many heartaches, so many depressive words, so many words of hopelessness, so many more like a narrator who's dejected, frustrated, who has been shown the typical life experiences, and eavesdropping. Oh, I have no idea that we're currently eavesdropping on a one-sided conversation with God, an obstacle. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so in A Cry for Mercy, I explore so many themes. I explore the theme of spiritual bondage. I explore the theme of demonology, which extends into the second series, and to further on to the third series in terms of I Saw the Light, which is more like a book of liberty or freedom. Yeah. So in
Mm-hmm.
the Christ, I love to consider it a book of plea and lamentation. It's the dreadest of my writing so far, and the most people think to be quite hugely emotional. Yeah. So it's such an amazing one, really. And but then one of the major things that I talk in there, like I mentioned, it's in the theme of spirituality and the theme of spiritual bondage per se. Yeah, which most people I've read so many articles say, "Oh no, no, Peter, I don't believe in spirit. I don't believe in these things." But I'm like, okay, fine, I understand. But this is just for the people who think this to be a reality. Because I come to think of it, more like I mentioned initially, that spirituality is no respecter of one's belief. Either you believe it or not, the world is spiritual. We human beings, we're spiritual. I mean, we're made up of three components. We have the body, we have the soul, and we have the spirit. Come to think of it, why do we dream?
Right.
So many things actually. And one of the other ideology that I think to preach in the book is the fact that the spiritual controls the physical, and I was backing that up with some poetry. Well, it's a very hugely controversial book, but we still have it dating back to human lamentation, to human plea, to human frustration, to human dejection, and asking the question if human suffering can be spiritual, if human heartache can be spiritual, if the trouble, I love it when I read reviews of people who've read this book, and sometimes it got me smiling, laughing, and resonating with what I've read and what I've written so far. And so I
Mm-hmm.
love to consider I Cry for Mercy as a book of plea and lamentation, one that everybody, irrespective of your belief, background, religion, education, age, will be able to relate with and concur with the fact that yeah, it's an actually amazing book. Plea, lamentation, cry. Most have likened it to the book of Job in the Bible.
Oh
And some
wow.
say it can be likened to the book of Lamentation. Some say, oh,
Oh wow.
it speaks more of the prophet Jeremiah. I'll be like, okay,
Oh
yeah,
wow.
thank you. So that's how Cry for Mercy came to be. Yeah.
I'm looking at your cover. Now, this is the second piece that we looked at, and your covers. Whoever designed the vision of the covers are blowing me away. For example, on this one, "A Cry for Mercy," "Escape from the Unseen Dungeons." You have somebody sitting in a tunnel. You can
Hmm.
see the light in the back, but
Yeah.
he's in the dark and he's on his knees. And then I'm looking at all of the details, like even the graffiti and stuff. It looks like there's some kind of graffiti or writing on the tunnel. This is an amazing cover.
Thank you, thank you, and I want to say a very big shout out to my cover designer Efe.
Oh my gosh.
Efe. He does an amazing job actually, and I told him, yeah, that I want someone to sit in the tunnel with hand lift up while the light is over there. It's still in the
Yeah.
dungeon, but it's in there pleading, trying to seek for a way out from the. And this tunnel actually can encompass different life experiences. This tunnel, I love to classify it, could be an experience, a bad one that someone is having, or another experience that someone else is having. Just think of it in any way, interpret it to whatever mystery that human goes through. So there's this human sitting in there in the tunnel, pleading while the light is over there, pleading for escape from the unseen dungeon. The dungeons actually that he cannot see. You know, when we talk about dungeon, we talk about a hole. We talk about like something like a vault where people have been trapped in with no
Yeah.
means of escape. But then when you use the word unseen, it shows you that some people can actually be in dungeon that are unseeable,
Unseen. Yeah.
dungeons that are invincible, dungeons that you cannot touch with a physical hand, you cannot see with your physical eye, but you are inside a dungeon. So let's dig back to the spiritual component that the book has in terms of spiritual bondage, because like most people wouldn't love to hear words like this. Spiritual bondage exists a very huge time. It exists a very, and to me, for me to even come up with this concept, most of the things are written based on the dreams that I have, are written based on the inspiration that I got, written based on the revelation that I got, written based on, I don't know, something just picked to my ear and said, okay, Peter, it's high time, pick a pen, I have something else for you. You have to include it in a cry for mercy. And hilariously, when I was writing this book, whenever I say, okay, can I go ahead now and publish? The voice will tell me, not yet time. I have more I need to
To
give
put
to
in
you.
there.
So I'll be like, okay, I will wait and more like I think well, I don't know how to clarify, but I think it's still part of the inspiration, or maybe something just speaking to your ear. So it shows you how deep, how extremely philosophical and spiritual writing poetry can actually be. Yeah, that's all
Yeah.
about a cry
Yeah.
for
This
mercy,
cover
really.
is blowing me away. It's almost like light at the end of a tunnel. Light. I mean,
Yeah.
it is blowing me away. It's just wow. Whew, that's something. Okay. Let's take another break and listen to another musical selection for one of my previous artists, and we'll be right back.
Yeah.
Okay. So we are back with Peter Okonkwo, and we've already looked at two of his dynamic pieces. We're going to look at one more. What is the name of this one, Peter?
Fate in the Dungeon of Doom.
Okay, let me find the big piece. Okay. All right, I got it on there. All right, so tell us a little bit about this piece and how'd you come up with the name? This is another one where I see darkness and I see light at the end. Oh my gosh. But this is a different type of it doesn't look like a when we look for cry for mercy, that looked like a more oval, like narrow. This looks like is that a tomb? I mean, it just
And
I
I
don't know.
think, and I'm not quite sure if you can see someone in there. Do you see anything down the
Oh, I see it
staircase?
now. Yes, I see it now sitting there. I didn't at first till you said it. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sitting
I
down
see
there.
their hands crossed. I see it. All right. All right. Tell us about this one.
Yeah, I love your feedback on my covers.
They are
Thank you.
wonderful. Oh my God.
Thank you. Yeah, so in Fate in the Dungeon of Doom, like it has a subtitle, RC are words to explain the reality of a man's fate. Difficult, uneasy are words to explain the reality of a man's fate. So in here, more like I said initially, I love questions. So in Fate in the Dungeon of Doom, the book is made up of three sections. That's why it's a bit voluminous, with 240 pages. It's made up of three sections. The
Wow.
first part is a Pumps of Fate, and the second part is a Pumps of Kohame, the fate of a traumatized lad, and the third part is other poems. So in the first part, I explore the theme of fate. You know, it's more like a question from another dejected narrator who has no idea what fate he's got in life, who has seen quite a lot of hardness and still believe that he has a good fate ahead of him. So this narrator was trusting in so many questions, question about his fate, question about identity, question about tomorrow being so blurred and obscure to him, question about if fate would come or leave him to die. So in here, there's so many questions about the reality of a man's fate. And also, well, like I mentioned, I explored the theme of philosophy in here. So I was asking question in do human know their fate? Like, do I know my fate? Do you know your fate? Do human beings know their fate? Do you know what holds tomorrow for you? Do you know what is going to become of your life in a month, in a 2 month, in a 1 year time? Do we have power to control the outcome of our fate? Can you know and again, who is in control of a man's fate? So all of this question are something that I post in. And I know so many, like I said, my books are very controversial. Or we have some Christian, I'm a Christian actually, fine, good.
Hmm.
But then when we have Christian theology saying that, okay, God is the one controlling human's fate. I come to think of it that okay, I think there might be another entity aside God actually, but then I don't like to give answers. I only ask questions in my writing. So in here, I was asking so many questions about who determines a man's fate. Do we know our fate as human beings? Can we change the outcome of our fate? Can we change some negative things and along the path of our fate? So many questions actually, so many questions. And in here, you can feel the depth, the agony, the pain, the frustration of this narrator asking this trunkload of questions. You can easily feel that, oh, this person is really frustrated and was seeking for answers, answers to the many questions he's got on his head, question about fate, question about tomorrow, question about the good luck of a man, question about fortune, question about mystery in line of fate, question about how important or how hard one is to fight obstacle in line of fate. When I wrote this book, the
Hmm.
feedback got me to write this one can be considered as a follow up to Fate because in here,
Okay.
it was this year was all about fate and destiny, fate and destiny. What's the difference between fate and destiny? Is fate like a permanent thing that we is it like a permanent path that we must tread on? Then can you classify destiny be different? One is the path and one is a destination. How can we differentiate between these two? Are they synonymous in any way? Are they different in any way? So, following all my chocolate of questions in here about I think 25 poems, still exploring the same theme consistently. Like I mentioned, I love to keep to my theme consistently in poetry, where you have the first poem talking about faith, the second poem, different titles actually, but still
Hmm.
talking about faith, still talking about faith from a different angle, from another idea, from a different perspective, from a point of view that might construct the first poem you've just read. So it's very controversial, full of a lot of philosophy in there, thought provoking words actually that got you thinking over and over and over again. So,
Hmm.
following up my first part in here, being the pump of fate, is what got me right there. It's the pumps of obstacle. Then, here, I was now trying to demystify the connection between human obstacle and destiny. I mean, there's a destiny over there, and there's this chunk load of blocking it in here, representing obstacle. How do you differentiate it? Does this obstacle and destiny have a path towards our humanity? And do we human need, because in life, many people find obstacles. Some people experience it the hardest way. Some find it easy in life. Some find it easy to navigate through it, while some find one obstacle coming up when another one is over, another one coming up when another one is over, and it's a strong load of it, things you have to fight along the line.
Right.
So here I have the first poem detailing the poems of faith, highly philosophical, very thought-provoking, had a lot of questions in there too. And the second section is a poem of Kuhame, which is a story of a Nigerian man gone missing and the aftermath of his disappearance and his family member, more particularly his mother. This particular section, while I exhibited my title at the recently concluded Nigeria Book Fair, I was part of the exhibiting author, and hilariously, I was the only exhibiting author at
Oh,
the
wow.
at the 2024 Nigeria International Book Fair. So I got someone read the book, and she came back the next day. I said, "Wow, I love the Kwame story. It reminds me of a particular." What's it called? A very movie producer in Nigeria, who's more like the top producer, Funka Akindele. She was like, it reminds me of Funka Akindele movie titled Mahami. And I was like, oh, interesting. And she told me that, okay, I think you should connect with Superson. It would be great if they can enact this into movie. I'm actually speaking with a few script writer, which I'm gonna be meeting my next visit to Lagos. So to kind of look at, I will have to write the book, which I'm currently working on another section for the Kwame story. It's a very sad story about the mother not knowing the whereabouts of his son. I mean, this is a son that's
Oh,
gone missing for
wow.
a bunch of 8 years. So, as a Christian, she had to forsake her Christianity to seek the opinion of the God of Africa. And that's why I always say my works are blend of philosophy. The first part of the book, you're reading about faith,
Hmm.
philosophy, and very philosophy also with a blend of spirituality. Then in Poems of Kohame, you're reading about a man's story. It's like a narrative poetry. Narrative poetry are poems that tell a story in form of poetry. So in there, you're reading about the poem of the disappearance of a young man, and also with a blend of African spirituality. So
Okay.
this woman, despite it's a very painful thing for a mother to not know the whereabouts of his son, so of her son rather. So she had to forsake a Christian faith to consult the gods of Africa, which more people would call, did they call it idolatry in the Christian fold thereabout? Forsaking your God to seek after the opinion of other gods. I mean, we have people like Shango, we have the gods. Shango is a god of lightning and thunder, I think. And we have Ogun, we have Batala, we have Sonyi. These are like people that use voodoo to make inquiry about people's whereabouts. So she
Okay.
goes to soothsayers as well to ask here, please, I've been looking for my son for more than 8 years now. Where do you think he is? So some people will tell her that, oh, he's dead. Some will say, I think he's gone mad. Some will say is missing. Some will say, he doesn't know what he's doing. Some they're just giving so many opinions, and these have got her to be full of tragedy. I mean, this is the first son that she got. That's got her to be full of sorrow, tragedy, and sometimes people mock her. I mean, people when it's a very painful thing when you're
Right.
looking for a son and someone is asking about how you take for instance how is Daniel, and Daniel has gone missing for ages, and you don't want to tell them that he has gone missing. So on every asking, it's full of this emotional backlash, pain, agony in her heart. And you can see this poem is written mostly in the perception of Vanessa, who happens to be the fictional character for the mother of Kohame who has gone missing, and also Iten, the younger brother of the missing Kohame. So this section is highly deep, very painful, sad, very tearful actually. Then we have the third part, which encompasses other poems. Yeah, so that's what make in with Fate in the Dungeon of Doom.
Wow, that sounds like a very interesting book. Very interesting book. I have one final. We have time for maybe one more question. I wasn't able to get to all the questions. This is so good. Um, what advice would you give someone that's aspiring to be a poet or a writer? What advice, like maybe somebody young, or or like you know, young, or what I'm
Yeah,
saying, or somebody that's
yeah.
aspiring to be a writer or a poet? What kind of advice would you give them?
Yeah, my advice would be that you just follow your heart, follow your mind, listening to the inner voice, listen to the voice speaking to your ear. Write this and pick up your pen and write when it speaks to you. Don't be lazy. Seek for help. Join Facebook groups, writers group to shape up your craft because it's another thing to write poems that are quite interesting. It's another thing to follow the poetry quality, to follow poetry styles, to make it suit into the conventional style of writing poetry. Yeah, so one of the things I would love to say, just follow your heart, increase your craft, read a lot of books is very important, and shape your skill, improve your craft, and yeah, just keep doing it, and on and on and on. You keep growing and keep developing.
Okay. All right. So we can find your books, Peter, through Amazon stores. And I have the link at the bottom of the screen. Also, Peter has graciously given us his email address as well. So if you all want to reach out to him about his work or find out more about him, you can do that as well. And
Yeah.
we're going to be giving one of these books away. So you all stay tuned for that. Um, Lastly, Peter, I want to just say, thank you. Thank you so much. I know we have a big time difference, and I
Yeah.
know your schedule is heavy. I just want to thank you so much for taking time out to come on FNL and share with us your poetry pieces. This was a very dynamic show full of a lot of transparency, and I just thank you for that transparency and having the courage to do that and put that in your books. Best wishes on your
Yeah.
publications that you have so far and the ones that are to come. And when time permits, we would love to have you come and hang out with us again. And then
Yeah, it'd be
if you have
great.
any, yeah, and then if you have any final words, I'm going to let you do the final words and then we're out of here. All right. So it's all you.
Yeah, yeah. My final words would be that people should, if you love books are quite deep, the things that would cause you to think long after you've read it, you may want to get a copy of my books. They're all available on Amazon everywhere. Amazon books are being sold. AmazonUX.com, Amazon UK, Canada, Australia, everywhere. And by typing Peter Okonkwo on Amazon or even Google my name, if you Google me, I'm on Google, then all of my books will come up. You can get a screen. Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me on the show. I so much appreciate being a featured author. It means a lot to me. Thank you.